Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Horn Camp Connect, an offering of Cormorant Music. I'm your moderator and KBHC staff member, Kyle Schober. Today's session of Horn Camp Connect will feature Felix Klieser, renowned German horn performer and soloist. Felix is also joined today by KBHC staff member, Aliyah Danielle, and the session features a Q&A discussion about Felix's background and experience as a horn soloist. As always, before we jump into the session, there's just a few Zoom housekeeping items to review. So that everyone is able to hear the presentation, we've muted all participants. Please stay muted for the duration of the session unless one of our presenters asks you to unmute. If you click on participants at the bottom of the screen, you should see a participant list pop up with your name at the top. If the name associated with your Zoom account is different from your own name, please click on the blue More button next to your name, select Rename, and then enter your name. If you'd also like to include your pronouns with your name, please feel free to do so. If you click on Chat at the bottom of the screen, you should see the chat box appear. Comments posted in the chat are affected by the drop-down menu above the text box. Depending on your selection, your comments may be viewed by everyone or by individual participants. Each time you enter a comment into the chat, please double check your selection so that your comment is seen by your intended audience. And with that, I'll hand the session off to Felix and Aliyah.
Hi, everybody. Thanks so much, Kyle, for introducing us. I'm very excited and honored to be interviewing Felix today. I was actually just thinking a while back, I think I was like in middle school or something, and I remember seeing a video, Felix, of you playing probably one of the Mozart concertos. This would have been probably like 10 to 15 years ago, and I was just like so in awe. So it's very kind of an interesting full circle moment to be able to chat with you today. And thanks for making the time and being here.
Thank you very much. Nice to be here.
Yeah. And so just so everyone knows, I have some questions that I'll be asking Felix, but if at any point you have a question that comes up and you want to ask, either raise your hand and ask to unmute or type it in the chat, and we'll make sure to incorporate those questions in the conversation as well. But just to get us started, Felix, do you mind sharing with everyone kind of how you got your start on the horn?
Well, the beginning was quite normal. So I grew up in Göttingen. It's a very small town in the middle of Germany. It has about 150,000 inhabitants, so it's a very small city. And I was 4 years old when I went to my parents and said I want to play the French horn. But in my family and around, no one is a musician and no one is making music. So there was never a connection between me and family and music. And so it was a little surprise from where I got the idea to play the French horn. And my parents even didn't really know what I wanted to play, what a horn means. They just had a hunting horn or something like this in their mind, but not a horn where you could play concerts with. Yeah, so then we went to the music school in Göttingen, and there was just one horn teacher. And yeah, this was the beginning of everything. But where I've seen the instrument the very first time is a little miracle.
That's awesome, and kind of leads a little bit into my next question. So you said the music school only had one teacher, and my question was, what was your experience like finding an instructor that was capable of adapting to your needs? So obviously your horn setup was a little bit different than most of ours. And so I guess maybe talk a little bit about your experience with your teacher and with other people that you studied with throughout your horn journey, and how has that been in terms of the adaptability?
Well, in the very beginning, everything is just for fun, you know. And as everyone knows, starting to play French horn, the most difficult thing is to create one note and to create maybe a second note, and then to be able to play both notes in the right order. So this was the very beginning. So it was just for fun and for having something nice. So there was never the plan to make something bigger with this. And so the beginning was very, very easy and very unspectacular because There was no one forcing me to do something or had the idea that I can do more than a hobby. So it was just something for fun, and the idea was okay, if this works fine, then fine, and if not, then it's not a big thing. So this was quite relaxed at the beginning.
Awesome. Very cool. And so you play your horn, you put it on a tripod, I believe, right? And you play it with your left foot. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So was that how did that setup come to be? Like, did you all have to was it just kind of a homemade setup, or did you find someone to specifically design that, or kind of how did that come to be?
Well, this is a natural process because when I started to play the French horn, I had the same high like the instruments. I was sitting on the ground, and the instrument had the same high, like how my mouth was. So the mouse was on the same level like the mouthpiece, and so it was quite easy to play. And then of course I grew up, and the instrument didn't grow up with me. And then there was what's the idea to create something to fix the instrument on a specific position. But this is everything the tripod is doing. So it's not changing something with the instrument, it's not creating something, it just holds the instrument on a fixed position.
Nice. Very cool. Um, and so you've played with lots of different orchestras all around the world, and obviously, growing up in Germany and everything, what have been some of your most rewarding musical experiences? Maybe like favorite, groups you've played with or favorite solos you performed?
Well, the beautiful thing about making music is, and the beautiful thing about the life is, you can learn something from everyone. So every person you meet in your life, you can learn something from this person. Um, but the most important thing is that you are open for everything, that you are open for everyone, and that you are open for different ways of thinking, of different ideas. So this is a very very important. So there are sometimes you play with a really famous conductor or with a really famous orchestra, and then you play the rehearsal, and in the end, it's like, okay, this was nothing special, you know. And then you play with a maybe not that famous orchestra, not that famous conductor, and it's something amazing. Um, and this is very important to learn, and never follow names or something like this. You can learn everything from everyone, and you can learn. You will never find a person from whom you will learn everything. You learn some small things from person A, then other small things from person B, from person C, D, and so on. And in the end, I'm the result of the knowledge of thousands of people. This is a result of me. So this is very important to know. So be in contact with everyone. Use every chance you get in your life, even if a chance looks not that big, or something you can do is not maybe that interesting. You never know before how much you can learn or how big the chance is when you not try to do this. And this is one of the most important things, because when you're a soloist, then it's possible that you play every week with a new orchestra, with new conductors. So, and then you have pianists for recital concerts, and every week you have new people. And usually when you play a horn concerto, when you play a Mozart concerto, then you have maybe 40 minutes rehearsing time. So we have one rehearsal, 40 minutes, that's everything. So everything has to be very quick. You have to learn very quick. You have to understand the orchestra very quick. You have to understand really quick what the idea of the orchestra is, how they work with articulation, which colors they create, how they work with different tempi. And the result will be never good when you go to the orchestra and do what you want to do and force the orchestra and the conductor to follow you. Then the result will be not the best one. So you have to learn quick. And this is maybe the biggest challenge of doing what I do, to be every week with new people around. But this is something which teaches you many, many things on the musical side, on the human side, on many, many sides.
Yeah, that's really insightful. And I love the idea. I think a lot of times people view a soloist, or you kind of not so much in the classical world, but in a lot of other settings, it's like the soloist kind of has the end all be all say. So it's really interesting to hear you talk about adapting to the different ensembles and stuff. I think that's really important, something we don't think about that often. And then kind of extending on that, what are some things that you have coming up? Like I know that you'll be a featured artist at IHS this summer. Are there any other performances or things that are coming up that you're looking forward to?
Um, sorry. Um, well, so there are nice concert halls. So I think in May I'm in the Concertgebouw Amsterdam with the first Strauss and sometimes it's nice to play in big halls and in big, with a big tradition and with a special atmosphere. This is something special. But I learned in my life, so I played many different concerts and big concerts, small concerts, um, concerts with a huge renommee and concerts which were just normal concerts. But in the end, the thing which makes a concert magic is more the atmosphere, the audience, the situation when you're on stage and when you have the feeling that the audience is into the music and is absolutely concentrated on the music and what happens on stage, and they love to be there, and they can relax a little bit maybe from their daily life and have a special time. And this is something which is for me the most beautiful thing in playing concerts. For example, last summer I played two concerts at the BBC Proms at the Royal Albert Hall with I think 6,000, 7,000 people. I don't know how many, but it's something which is enormous, impressive. But it's something which is it's difficult to explain, but it's um, sometimes a very small hall can gives you more the possibility to communicate with everyone, to have the feeling that you're in contact with everyone, that you can see in the faces of the audience. And so it's difficult to say. And of course, when you start a career, then you're looking on prestige things, on names, big orchestras, competitions, and so on. But I'm doing what I'm doing. I started to be a soloist 10, 11 years ago. And of course, at the beginning, you're looking on big names and big things that you can tell everyone, "Oh, I played with him and I played this and that." But when you have this like a daily routine is a little bit negative, but something which happens every week, then there are other things which makes you more happy than just big names, big halls, big orchestras.
Yeah, it's definitely super interesting, the trajectory of that all. Is there, well, you kind of talked about it a little bit. Is there an ensemble that you haven't worked with yet that you would be interested to, or a piece of repertoire that you haven't been able to perform yet that you'd like to?
Um, Well, I started my career with the recordings and also in concerts with the original repertoire. So I started to the first album was for horn and piano, was a recital program. The second program was a Haydn concertos and Mozart concertos and so on. But the last years, I tried to find new music which worked really good for the French horn, but which was never written for the French horn. So I made an album. The name is Beyond Words, where I recorded Baroque arias, and of course these are all arrangements. And this is quite nice because then you can sometimes, or you have the possibility to see what kind of music, what kind of possibilities are in the French horn. Because when you play original repertoire for the French horn, the original horn concertos, Mozart, Haydn, Strauss, um, then the way how composer use the instrument is quite often the same. So you never have really long phrases, for example, or you have never like singing lines, very long lines. So it's you play a few bars and you have a little break, and you play a little bit, you have a break, you play, you have a break. So the structure is always the same. Um, and to create something new and to arrange music for horn and orchestra, was something which was really nice because there I suddenly had this, or I understood what other possibilities you have with the French horn. And this is something I want to do more in the future, to learn more about the French horn, to create things maybe no one created before with the French horn, create new sounds, new kind of music. And this is something I want to do also a little bit more in the future years.
Yeah, that's so exciting. I think our community in the Horn is really starting to try to branch out and kind of see, pulling obviously from the tradition, but also kind of expanding it and, bringing it into this, this ecosystem that we're in right now. You've already given so much great advice, but do you have any other kind of advice you would give maybe younger horn players or people who are in school, or any advice you would give to a horn player looking for some inspiration?
Well, there are a million things I can tell you, but um, the first thing, or what I think, what is the most important thing, is to become a musician. And for being a musician, it doesn't matter if you want to become a horn player or violin player or pianist. In the end, we are musicians. And the first and the most important thing from my side is to learn to understand who you are. Um, who are you? What are the things you are fascinated of? What are the things you love? What are the things you don't like? So to learn as much as possible about yourself, because in the end, when we play music, we communicate something from ourselves with other people, and the music is just the possibility to communicate. But the things we want to communicate, the things we believe in, these are the things which makes a musician interesting, or which makes music interesting. And also, when you say, okay, at the beginning, it's more important to learn to play the right notes and to have the technical things and so on. But also in this area, it's very important to understand what you need. For example, a simple thing, how to do a warm up. So there are many teachers that tell you, okay, for warm up, you need this, and that. This is not something I would never say to anyone, because in the end, having a warm up is one of the most personal things you can imagine, because everyone needs different things. And of course, there are many things or many possibilities how you do a warm up. But in the end, you have to understand yourself. What do I need to be perfect prepared? It doesn't make sense to have a warm up program, and then you start to play a piece and you don't have the feeling, okay, I'm really prepared right now. This is not helpful. So this is also a part to understand what you need. And also other things are technical things. There are many ways how to solve problems in your playing. But in the end, you have to understand what is the best way for you. And even if the way you use is a way no one else use, it doesn't make sense. Sorry, it's not important. It's very important to understand what you need, what helps you, which is the best thing for yourself, which is the thing you love. For example, tempi. You cannot play a tempi or a piece in a tempo which you not feel comfortable with. Even if a teacher says, okay, this is a little bit too fast, this is a little bit too slow, and then you play faster, slower because the teacher says. But when you not feel comfortable with this, then it doesn't make sense. And this is one of the most important thing on several levels, to understand who you are, what you need, what you like, what you hate, what you're passionate for. And it sounds a little bit philosophic, but in the end, it's not philosophic. But it's very difficult, of course, because it takes you years and years to understand yourself. But when you understand what you need, then it helps you a lot, because then you can learn a lot from yourself.
Thanks so much for that. I mean, I'm like, yeah, gotta on a journey to find ourselves, aren't we all? Um, and then my last question. So, also, if anyone's watching and wants to jump in after this and ask any questions or type anything in the chat, definitely feel free. Something I definitely struggle with is work-life balance and kind of making sure that I'm not like only focusing on making music. Do you have any hobbies outside of horn playing, and how do you approach kind of balance, making sure that you are balancing the horn, playing things and also the non-horn playing things in your life?
Well, this is a very good question because I would say in the beginning of my career, my life was 100% horn playing and 0% anything else. But then I understood and I practiced a lot. When I was a student, I practiced like 5, 6, 7 hours. But I was not a good horn player. You know, I was not really. I was okay, and it was not bad, and so. But I was not that level of horn play. I was not a soloist at that time, and I practiced more and more because I had a really hard will to be able to play this instrument as good as possible. But it never changed. It was not the point that I understood. It was not the situation that when I started to practice more, my skills became better and better. It was quite often the opposite. So I did many or spent many hours in home playing, many concentration, and I would say 100% of my life was focusing on home playing, but the result was not really good. Um, because what I did not understand at that time is that we need a good balance between forcing ourselves and relaxing, of course. So I never, right now I would say I practice about 2.5 or 3 hours, not more. Because I know when I practice more, then I destroy more than it would be helpful. Um, and the other thing is your mindset, because when you have a big will of something, this is quite good. But there's a point where it changes from that something is helpful to something is more destroying something. Because when you go on stage, for example, and you force yourself to not making any mistakes, to play as perfect as possible. Of course, this is not possible because we are all human beings. You will never be perfect, but this is not the most important thing to be perfect. The most important thing is that you go on stage and that you do it with passion, because when you do something with passion, then it will be okay. But when you are not able to also be friendly to yourself, then the way to destroy yourself is quite easy. And then you start a process where you more destroy than you help yourself. And so right now, I would say, of course, for example, I've right now my rhythm is like 1 or 2 concerts per week. So I had last week I had 2 concerts with the orchestra in Germany. It was a horn concerto, which was written for me. This week is no concert, and then Monday is concert on Austria. But yesterday and today I will not, or I didn't practice because I know I need these 2 days off, and then I'm doing playing PlayStation, eating something nice, doing beautiful things. Because when you're friendly to yourself and when you take care of that your mind is fresh and feels good and is happy, this is very, very important. This is very, very important because there are many things in home playing which takes a lot of time. You cannot, when you have specific problem, when you have problems with your tongue, that the tongue is not quick enough, for example, then it's not something you will not solve in 1 month or 2 months. You will solve maybe in a year, in 2 years, in 5 years, in 10 years, maybe. But you have, it's very important to give yourself the time for everything and not to be brutal to yourself and to be not friendly anymore to yourself, because this will never help you. So this is a very good question. So what's good life and work balance? In the end, I would say it's maybe 50-50, something like this. So 50% is your work, your horn, everything, and the other 50% is be friendly to yourself, enjoy what you love, um, and it's quite normal that not everything is perfect, and this is not a disaster.
Cool. Thank you so much. I see a question came in from Christy in the chat, and she says, "What is your favorite horn solo or piece, or what are your favorite solos or pieces?"
uh, well, in the end, for me, music is like if you compare this maybe you can compare music with chocolate. So chocolate is very delicious, it's sweet, and it's nice, and it's I think there are not that many people that would say chocolate I don't like. So the most people in the world like and love chocolate. But when you go to the people and tell them, okay, you love chocolate, chocolate is your favorite food, I have a fantastic possibility for you. You are allowed to eat every day as much chocolate as you want without having any negative consequences. Um, then everyone would be happy and they would eat chocolate and chocolate and chocolate and chocolate and chocolate. But maybe after 1 week, they cannot see chocolate anymore because chocolate is a thing they've eaten every day. So they need something new. And this is a little bit like, or this is a little bit how I see music. So in the end, there's not something where I would say this is my favorite piece, um, or this is not something where I would say when I have the possibility to choose between everything, I will play this because the mix between different kinds of music, different composers, playing chamber music, playing soloists, playing recital things, the mix makes music interesting. So even the most beautiful piece, when you play every day the most beautiful piece, then there will be one day where you want to do something different.
Awesome. And I think Kyle's going to hop back in here and kind of field some questions. He has some questions of his own as well. I said in the chat, but feel free to unmute yourself and ask your question directly, or if you're more comfortable putting it in the chat, that's cool too.
Yeah, great. So the next question I see is from Madison, who asks, do you have any advice for people who want to go into music performance?
From which side? From general side? From so and which aspect? Maybe I can ask. What do you mean?
Maybe like at least from your unique experience as a soloist, like maybe for people who want to go into music performance like with the intention of performing a lot of solos.
Well, you are not a soloist, or you cannot become a soloist. This is something people have to learn. Um, of course, as a horn player, we are not focused on becoming a soloist. As a horn player, we are more focused on becoming an orchestra musician. But at the universities, there are many young people. They they violin players, piano players. They want to become a soloist, for example. Um, but this is not something which you can change. The things you can change is to learn to be on stage, and the easiest thing to learn how or to learn to feel good on stage is spend as much time as possible on stage. This is the most effective thing. So play for everyone, play for your parents, play for your cat, play for your neighbors. It doesn't matter, but try to keep yourself as much as possible in the situation to uh, play for other people. Because when you do this many times, then you learn that this is not something dangerous, because we have always the feeling, we know from our, when we think about the situation, we know being on stage is not something dangerous, nothing can happen. But on the other way, our feelings are completely different. And we cannot explain our feelings, okay, this is not dangerous, relax, this will never work. So we have to make the experience that being on stage is something which is not dangerous. And for this is the most helpful thing to play as much as possible for other people in a specific situation. And for this, it doesn't matter that you have 50 people, 100 people. It's also possible that you play for one person, or that you take your mobile phone and make a recording. Put your you turn your mobile phone on, start recording, and think of yourself, okay, I'm playing now for the mobile phone, that you learn the situation. This is the first thing. And then the second thing, the musical side, the technical side is, as I said before, there is no correct or wrong interpretation of something, I would say. There are so many different ways how you can play one piece, and there's never there's no yes and no. There's never an interpretation where I would say, okay, this is right and this is wrong. Everything is correct in a specific way. The only thing which is not correct is to have no idea. When I teach, sometimes I have the feeling, okay, there are people they just play the notes, and then I ask them, okay, what do you think when you play the music? And they're really surprised because they never heard a question like this before. And then I'm shocked because this is the most important thing. The most important thing is when you don't have an idea what you want to do with the music, then it's not necessary to play the music. If you don't know what you want to talk about, then it's not necessary to write a book. When you want to write a book, then the most important thing is what do you want to tell other people? And this is the same with music. Um, and when you have your own personality, when you have your own view on the world, and you have the will to share your point of view with other people, then you automatically become a musician and a soloist. But being a soloist is like being a teacher. There are many people in the world that want to become a coach. And the first question I'm always asking myself, okay, coach, but coach is nothing. What are you coaching? Are you coaching to how to drive a car? Are you a coach for mathematics? What is your passion? You know, this is more important than anything else to understand who you are, what do you want to talk about, what is your passion, and then you can use your instrument with to communicate your point of view to other people.
Yeah, that's great. And one thing I'm curious about too is, you sort of mentioned that most hornists kind of do their training like with a focus on orchestral playing. So I'm curious if that was, your experience with your education, and if so, how you found your niche as a soloist in the middle of all of that.
Of course. I was in university and started to study after school, and you make auditions, and so I had the privilege that I had the possibility to make a recording in the middle of my bachelor. So I started at the university 2010, and 2 years later, I had the possibility to make a recording. And this recording was a Reveries album, and this was quite successful. Also on the commercial side, it was very successful, and it won the Echo Classic, which is maybe one of the biggest European classical music awards. It does not exist anymore, but in that time it was one of the most prestige classical music awards, and I won the prize. And on the other side, the recording was quite successful on the commercial side, and so I got the possibility to make a second recording, and this was the beginning of becoming a soloist. But I never planned in my life to become a soloist. This was never my plan. This was never my idea, and I think as a horn player, you don't think you have you never have thoughts like them. Maybe you think, okay, I want to play beside my orchestra or chamber music career. I want to play time by time. I want to play solo concerts. This is possible, of course, but to be a full time soloist is something which happens, or which is not something you can really plan. It happens, but from my career, when I look to my beginning of the career, um, it was more, how can I explain? It was a special situation which yeah brings me into the situation to become a soloist.
Oh,
Kyle, you're still
yeah,
muted.
thanks for that. Great. Been doing this for like 4 years now. Amazing. Um, we just had another question pop up from Christy, who asks, "Do you sing or play any other instruments?"
No,
No. Great.
cannot
Simple answer to
sing.
that.
I'm not good in anything. Just in horn playing. This is the only thing I can do, but the rest is horrible.
And like maybe a tangentially related question, which Brooklyn asked. is what horn do you currently play on, and were there any special considerations in trying to find a horn that would work for you?
Well, it's easy. I'm German, and I grew up in Germany. And when you're in Germany, then you have to play an Alexander 103. So there's no possibility to choose anything. I think right now the situation is a little bit different. But when I started to study, it was 2010. The situation was quite easy. When you want to go to a German orchestra, um, which is of course yeah, the thing everyone wanted to become orchestra player in German orchestra. Then you have to play an Alexander horn. So this is quite easy. So there was never the situation, or there was never. Um, I never tried something different.
Great. One other question I had was, sometimes in classical music, there can be a lot of gatekeeping for instrumentalists and people saying, oh, you can do this or you can't play this instrument because of the X reason. So, I'm interested to hear if that was something that you encountered in your career, or, I mean, hopefully not, but, were there any people who discouraged you from trying to pursue the horn as a career, or maybe there were some figures who were more supportive in that regard?
What this happens, but this is something which happens not just in music; it happens in every area in life. Everyone explains you what you're good in and what you can do, what you not can do, and so. But the thing is, we have to understand that the reason why people say something to you are not the reason is not that they have more information than you have. It's more the thing that they have maybe less information, but they think the information they have are enough to make a decision. You know what I mean? So they see a person, they see something on a person, and then they say, okay, you look like this, or you are this, and so this is possible, this is not possible. Of course, in my situation, there were many people asking me, why do you want to become a horn player? Do something different, but please don't become a horn player. Of course, this happened a lot. Of course, when you're starting to when I started to become successful, then the same people said the completely opposite thing. So then they said, this is so great, and I always trust in you, and it's amazing, and you're so good. But it's very important. So when we talked about learned about yourself, it's very important to learn what you want to do, and also if there's someone who makes music and who is not really interested in making music, but is making music because he or she was forced by parents or someone around to make music, but the inner feeling is that they want to do something different, then trust your inner feeling. Um, because we can just do what we are fascinated about. When we have a passion for something, when we have the will to become or to do something, then it is possible, of course. And then we have to understand that our will, that our decision is the most important thing. And sometimes it's good to listen to other people, but when people are saying negative things to you, they things they are not helpful, then the things are not helpful, and then we have to learn to not follow them and not to understand too much. So I had this many times. Even teachers I had, they said, "Well, yeah, you're a good home player, but in your situation, please do something different." I had this many times in my life, and so I'm very happy that I followed my passion and that I believed in myself and that I not heard too much on persons they said something different. But this is also a part of where I said at the beginning, when you understand yourself, when you understand who you are, what you want, this is so important. And this sounds sometimes a little like a philosophic phrase or something like this, but in the end, it isn't. It is something really real. And this is the most important thing to understand, even if you don't want to become a role player, if you want to do something different, or if you have other ideas of your life. This is a basic of everything.
Great, thank you for that. And this is kind of like one of my areas of interest in music. So, forgive me for going off on a bit of a tangent, but you're mentioning that a lot of people will there's no shortage of people who will like rush in to say negative things about you or really any musician. And earlier you mentioned about finding a more helpful mindset to approach the performing situations with. So I was curious, what resources did you find helpful to keep you sort of motivated among a bunch of people, like maybe telling you negative things or just the stress of performing as a soloist?
Well, when I think I was 8 or 9 years old. I was in the music school in Göttingen, so just a normal music school, not something special. Um, and my teacher gave me a CD after a lesson. And it was a recording of the Mozart horn concertos with Hermann Baumann and the St. Paul Chamber Orchestra. And I was, okay, this is a CD. I never heard about that Mozart wrote something for the French horn. I never heard it is possible to play horn with orchestra together. I never heard about, I just played my small children's songs in my music school, and this was my universe, I never know that there's something more. And then I put the CD in the CD player, and I was so fascinated. Okay, the horn sounds so different. And there is an orchestra who plays together with a French horn player. And I was really like, I was an 8 or 9, I think I was 9 years old. I was a 9-year-old boy, grew up in an area where no one was making music. There was no music around. There was no one explaining me something about music. And I was really surprised that this is possible with the French horn because, of course, the thing Baumann did was a bit different than the things I made with the French horn. So I was not able to believe that this is possible with the French horn. And then I had to wish, okay, one day in my life, I want to play with an orchestra as a soloist. I want today to do this one time in my life. And then I tried to find a strategy. Okay, how is it possible? I was a 9-year-old boy. So and there was no one around me which I could ask and said, okay, I want to play one time as a soloist with an orchestra. What should I do? Yeah, there was no one I could ask. So then I made the decision. Okay, there's one thing you can do. You have to be able to play the French horn as good as possible. And this was my plan. So the plan was play the French horn as good as possible. There was never the idea to win competitions, um, to work with specific conductors or something like this. It was just the idea be able to play the instrument as good as possible. Okay. But then the second question is, okay, how should I do this? How can I play the instrument as good as possible? What should I do for this? And then my idea was, okay, from now on, you have to use every day as good as possible. Never look on the result because you have just 24 hours every day and you can use every day as good as possible. This is the only possibility you have. So practice, try to learn when you have the feeling, because I had in my life when I was 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, there were 4 or 5 times where I changed everything. My daily routine, my technique, really everything, because I understood, okay, I'm on the wrong way, and the way you're going right now will be not helpful in the future. So you have to change something. For example, one example when you want to understand what I mean was change everything. When I was, I think 13, I started to study as a young student in the university. And in the lessons and in the little concerts I had to play there, I was really nervous, really nervous. But I had the feeling, okay, this is not the normal this is an English word, nervosity. It was something different. So it was not the situation that I played for other people, because when I was in the music school, I also played for other people. There's something different in your feeling, which makes you feeling really uncomfortable. And then I talked to my teacher, okay, I'm feeling uncomfortable on stage. Why? And And they said, yeah, you are nervous because you play for other people. This is quite normal and so on. But I had the inner feeling, no, 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 there's something different. And then I tried to analyze the room and what is on the ground, which is on the, where are the windows, how is the light, how is the smell in the air, what do you smell? And then I realized that at home, my parents' home, in every room there's a carpet. And in the music school, there was also a carpet. So everywhere where I played, where I spent most of the time with the French horn, was on a carpet. And when I realized this, I started to practice in the bathroom. So I put everything out from the bathroom, which could be a little bit cozy, and played in the naked, really loud bathroom. And this was a horrible situation because when you play in a bathroom, the acoustic is horrible. Everything is loud, and you cannot play with good articulation or with anything. But I understood when you feel really good in a really bad atmosphere, then you feel good everywhere, you know. And this is something I understood, and these are the things I changed many times in my life. But the thing why I did all these things was very easy. I wanted to be able to play the French horn as good as possible. And this is, I think, for everyone, the most important thing. When you know what you want, when you exactly know where you want to be in the future, then you will find a way. But when you don't know what you want, when you don't know, is this my passion, is this not my passion, then you have to take time and be friendly to yourself and look what your passion is.
Great. And Paul just put a question in that asks, can you talk about air production and usage?
So, sorry, once again?
Paul asked, can you talk about air production and usage?
Air production?
I'm assuming he means like air support and like what you're doing to get it through the instrument.
Can you explain more?
Maybe Paul would be best. Paul, are you able to unmute and ask?
Oh, sure.
Yes.
Many of my teachers tell me that I need to have good posture and to take a good breath. And I'm just wondering what your take on that is, on how to support your melodies, your line with your air.
Well, what do you want to do? What is the result you want to have?
I want to make it easier.
What do you want to make easier?
Any, let's say a solo that asks, that demands a lot of air, especially for length and range.
Why do you want to do this?
I want to tell a story.
Sorry if I'm a little bit asking you, but I will explain you what I want. But try to think about why do you want to do this?
Because I want to tell a story.
What story do you want to tell? For example, tell me a specific. Do you have a specific a piece where you have this problem, or a specific area in a piece where you have this problem?
Nothing at the moment, but I know that I have this problem often. Let's say the Glier concerto that is asking for it's a lot of fast notes and not a lot of good places to breathe. So I'm trying to be the most efficient with my air so that I can take less breaths.
Okay, for example, maybe you're talking about the second page where the tranquillo is, for example. Maybe this is a place where you think about breathing.
I'd have to look, because sorry that I don't have it in my mind right now.
The thing I want to explain, because there are many people there that ask, okay, how can I do this? How can I do that? But the thing they are focused on are not the results. You know what I mean? So of course there are, for me, it's quite often the problem when you talk about air. the end of the Adagio and Allegro. It's a very long B flat and then bling 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 bling. And there are some days where I have a lot of air, and there are some days I have no air, and I'm not really understanding sometimes why. Why do I have one day it's quite easy to play the long note, the other day it's not so easy to play the long note. When I have the feeling that the note is, or that I have not that much air, because in the long note you cannot breathe, there's no possibility. The only possibility is to stop a little bit too early. But this is something I don't want to do because it's not correct. So then I think, okay, I'm sitting here. I want to have this and that. How can I do? Can I use? Is there any possibility to play the note with less air? Play a little bit more soft. Play a little bit more quiet. Take a little bit of different color. And then it's possible to save energy or to save air. And there are many parts in the horn repertoire I have my problems with, but the thing is sometimes we want to do something which is not necessary. Yeah, because sometimes there's maybe a situation where we don't want to breathe, but we have to breathe because our body needs more air, but we don't want to breathe. We need more this. And then we have an inner conflict because someone tells us, okay, please, in this piece, don't breathe between these two notes. It's not possible. Then sit down and say, okay, there's possibility. I can try to find more air. This is a technical thing. This is a thing which takes time and which, of course, is possible. But then think, okay, what can I do to find a compromise to breathe as much as I need, but on the other side, not to destroy the music, or better, to create even a better music. For example, I'm using very different, for the high notes, I'm using different walls or different keys. Usually you play the high C, Adagio Allegro, with 0. Then one day I tried to play any combinations I can do with a high C, and then suddenly I realized that the combination of first and second walls is the best combination to have best color for a high C. I think there's no horn player in the world who plays a high C with 1/3 walls, no one. But for me, it was the best thing, and the color is beautiful. It has the right character and so on. But this is something that happened because I tried something completely new. And this is the reason why I asked you, why do you want to have this and why do you want to have this? When we want to find a solution for a problem, then it's the most important thing to think in as many different ways as you can. Don't focus on one way. Don't think, okay, I have to breathe there, and there I don't have to breathe, or there I can't breathe, or there I shouldn't breathe. I have to find a possibility that I just have to breathe one time in bar 516. But there are so many possibilities. And when you try to open about, or when you try to find different ways, then sometimes you can also create new things. And this is the reason why I asked, besides the technical side, of course, we can talk many times about how to breathe and how to get more air into yourself. But this is the technical side. I want to talk more about the how to deal with a specific situation. So this is something I do. Things I do also. I breathe sometimes on specific places no one else would breathe, but this does not mean that this is a wrong thing. I use quite often completely different technical things, or yeah, combinations of the walls I use. But in the end, I'm just looking, okay, what is the bigger thing I want to do, and what possibilities do I have? And quite often we have much more possibilities than 1 or 2 or 3. Maybe we have 10 possibilities, and one of the possibilities works perfectly for us. So I would recommend you to maybe to start some experiences with breathing here, breathing there, changing the tempo, changing the color, and just to focus on, okay, what is the bigger thing I want to to do with the music, and then you maybe find different solutions than just the way of how can I get more air inside my lungs, or how can I save a little bit more air while playing, because sometimes we find a way to save a lot of air, but then the phrase before breathing is colorless, then we are losing the color. Then it's helpful to breathe maybe one more, but have a beautiful color in the sound. And so this is the thing I want to say. There are many, 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 many possibilities, and yeah, this could be helpful to find different solutions for one problem.
Great. Our next question is from Christy, who asks if you have any secrets for working with students, whether they're beginners or advanced.
Well, I'm not well, the most, when I teach, the thing I want to do is, I'm a very individual person, and my mindset is very individual, and this means that every one of us is individual. And sometimes, for example, when I teach, I have the problem that there's someone with a problem I was never really confronted with, and because I have my problems, you have your problems, everyone has problems in home playing, but the problems are completely different, and not everyone has a solution for everything. So this is very, very important to learn that there are many, many, many ways of what you can do to solve a problem. For example, I had a student a few years ago. She played really good and everything was nice, but she didn't use enough air. So she played, everything was half of the air which was necessary. So everything was piano. She played great, and I forced her to just blow into the instrument, but it never changed something. And I was really frustrated because there are many, many difficult things on the French horn, but blew in the horn, maybe just for one note, just to understand it. This is something which is maybe not that difficult, but for her it was difficult. And then I said, okay, what are you interested in beside horn playing? Then she said, okay, I like to draw pictures. Okay, but you cannot play horn and draw a picture at the same time. So I opened a video on YouTube where someone was drawing a picture. And then I said, okay, concentrate on the video, but play at the same time the piece. And then suddenly she uses a lot of air because she was not focusing anymore on what she was doing. She was focusing on the video. The music was not perfect and the technical was not perfect, but this wasn't the problem. The point was, when she was concentrated on what she's doing, then she uses not the air she needs anymore. And but this is something I never had the problem. I never had the situation. This is something I just tried to understand, and this is what I think is one of the most difficult things, that everyone is individual, and we have the will and the wish that we teach and train everyone with the same system. There's one system, and this system should work for everyone. But this is quite often not helpful. And to understand people, to understand who they are, what they need, what the problems are, this is very difficult, but this is very necessary. And this is the same like having the right warm-up program. I cannot tell you this is the best program for warm-up you can find in the world, because the program which is maybe for me the best one is not good for another person. And this is the most, in the end, this way of individual thinking is the most difficult thing, because it's easy to have a strict program for everything. When you have a problem, push the right button, push the red button. When you have another problem, push the blue button, push the green button, and then everything is fine. This is easy, but this is not the thing, or this is not the way how things are working. And so yeah, this is something for me the most challenging thing, to understand what they need, to understand, also to think in different different in different ways, with different technical possibilities, and to also try something which I would never do, but which would maybe helpful for another person.
Yeah, and then the last question we have right now is from Madison, who asks if you have any advice on expanding your high range.
Take your time. High range it's a conflict because you have to use your lips. You have to fix your lips as strong as possible, but in the end, you should create your lips in a way where the air can be very free. And this is a conflict, because on the one side, the things you're doing with your lips is to make it very hard that for the airstream to go through your lips. But on the other side, a free airstream is very important. So this is a conflict. There are many exercises in the world, but for me, I had never good when I was 17, 18, my high notes were not that good. So I tried to practice every day, and I had the feeling, okay, there's no change anymore. And practices, I had many exercises, and I tried every day something new. But in the end, it's very important not to give up and take your time, because you have to find balance between how you use your lips, how you use your airstream, what works best for you. So sometimes it's also possible that you practice a lot and then your lips are getting tired, and then you have one day off, and after one day off, it's much better. And also this is good, and for me it was helpful to write every day in a little book how you feel, how your lips are, how much you practiced the day before, what pieces you have practiced the day before, to make a little memo for yourself for every day practicing, and how you feel about right now. And then when you go through your notice, you can learn, okay, this is helpful and this is not helpful. Because sometimes we remembered, okay, well, 3 weeks ago, my lips were amazing and I was able to play everything right, and this was so perfect. And the day before I did this, and the day before I did that, and the feeling there was this and that. But when you write everything down, then you understand really quick that the things you have in your memory are not correct sometimes. So you have different memories than it was in the real situation. And so this is sometimes helpful to write everything down, because in the end, it's a conflict between how to find the right balance in your lips. It's not that you have the best trained lips, so it's not necessary that you train your lips as much as possible. And when you have the strongest lips on the earth and you have the best high notes, this is not true. So it's a combination of very small things which makes something like playing a high C, for example, possible. But it can take a long time, and it's necessary to take the time for this.
Great. And with all of that done, I think that's a logical stopping point for the session. So I just want to say another thank you to Felix for taking the time today to share your thoughts and expertise with us. We really appreciate you doing so. And thank you to all of you who showed up and attended this edition of HornCamp Connect. We're so happy you joined us to engage and connect with one another. And if you'd like to rewatch today's session or to share it with others, you can find it on our YouTube page starting tomorrow. Before we go, we'd like to remind you all that registration for KBHC 2024 is still open. You can secure your spot today by visiting horncamp.org/apply. Be sure to check out our next edition of HornCamp Connect, which is an interview with KBHC Artistic Director Bernard Scully and KBHC faculty member Kevin Newton, which will be released on May 1st, 2024 on our YouTube page. Thanks so much for attending, and we hope to see you again next time.
Thank you.